If you love the West Tigers as much as we do, and that's an awful lot, you're welcome to come and join us in our discussions on the West Tigers podcast forum. Our forum is the #1 forum for West Tigers fans to talk everything West Tigers. westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
Played quickly by 12. Galvin steaming onto it. Ball around the corner. Sam Wadafainu has gone over. And Galvin's late on the first one. Luai Galvin. Stafford Toa with an in and away. And a fend on Harani and Taruba. Scampers down the sideline to get try number 2. It's his 8th of the year. Lands in no man's land. Anyone interested? The Tigers to pick it up. The silver toes in the hand. It's a Tiger try. The Sharks weren't interested in catching the ball. And Tallender Silver's been out there for a minute and got himself on the try scorer's sheet. Hines across the Trindle. Now to Atkinson. He steps inside and he lost the ball. This is extraordinary from the West Tigers. They've saved the game 3 times. For Hines. He's a long way back. The Tigers chase. It's another charge down. Coruscant back to Luai. He's going to go out to Dewey. Dewey tries to kick a field goal from almost 30 out. It's out to the right-hand side of the post. The Tigers might be close enough for a shot here. Another good run by Fainu. On the 30, 3 minutes of golden point time left. He's up inside the 30. It's a penalty! It's a penalty! One good kick and the Tigers have won the game. He's done it! What a win! One of their best ever. The Tigers 20 have beaten the Sharks 18.
It's the West Tigers podcast. What a game. 20 points to 18 in the second half of Golden Point at Leichhardt Oval. Great to beat the Sharks under any circumstances, but a game and an afternoon and evening like that, very, very memorable. We've got a whole bunch of one-word submissions from the West Tigers podcast forum. Thank you, everybody. We'll run through those in a few moments' time. But only Nick and Gary are here, so I don't know if that means that Steve and Declan and Eddie are all out celebrating or what it might be, but we're the last of the Mohicans, Gary.
Yeah, I actually thought I was going to have trouble getting on this pod tonight because I thought everyone's hand will go up. A great win from the club. Everyone will want to have their say tonight. And we're stuck with Nick.
Nick,
thanks,
good
Gary.
evening.
It's good to be here.
memorable day at Leichhardt.
Very memorable day. What a day. There were so many waves of emotion involved in watching that match. I was worried. I was actually, had the unfortunate pleasure of sitting next to Gary for that game. But Gary did say at halftime when we came off it, and unfortunately after conceding that try right on halftime, that we probably need another 2 tries. And you weren't far off the mark, Gary. That win was pretty strong and certainly played havoc with the kicking game, especially.
Yeah. I thought that's a game we needed to be leading well at halftime. But the fight in the boys today, I was really pleased to see them get the result, despite probably not making enough of that win in the first half. They fought so hard to get that win into that win in that second half. I thought it was a fantastic effort.
Let's dive into our one-word responses to the match. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I've got 5, 6. I think I've got. What about for you, Nick? What's your one word or more than one word? Because you can do that when we win. We can break the rules. What's your one word?
We could. I'll probably throw out 2. The first one, which is my obvious one, is resilience, because we just showed so much resilience to keep Cronulla out when I swear we were going to get run over. I was just sitting there waiting for it to happen because we've seen it so many times. And I can't remember the last time I was happy during Golden Point either. Especially, the way the game was going, the way the wind was blowing, we just couldn't seem to make it work for us. But yeah, that it was just unbelievable the way we hung in. My other word that I'd like to use is probably miracle, because honestly, it's so many so many times we were put into situations where we managed to stop, a try that was going to happen. Lockie Galvin, I think it was 2 minutes before regular time was up, managed to put that unbelievable try-scoring tackle on. I can't remember who it was. The Cronulla player, it was under the post.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't make that tackle around the ankles, that's going into that's 6 points in front with a minute to go. We're not going to win that game. Yeah. Within the same set, just after that, it went out, wide, and we managed to stop it again. We managed to break it down. I think Cronulla lost the ball on our try line, but yeah, it was a miraculous win. I'm certainly not unhappy with it, but just unbelievable wave of emotions tonight.
LFC Tiger also went for resilience, and Mac Tiger went for miracle, so they're on the same wavelength as you. We'll go through the rest of the one-word submissions after we hear from Gary.
Yeah, my one word is defib. I've got 3 reasons for that. I just about had a heart attack about 4 or 5 times in that game, and I needed the defib. I thought the side managed to resurrect a game that was probably gone a number of times as well. I thought half-time I thought we were in trouble, and the boys fought and hung in. I thought many times during that second half that the sin binning and Cronulla were going to get on top of us, and they're running through the middle. I thought they were going to take the game away from us. I thought there was multiple times in the extra time, especially when we didn't take advantage of the wind behind us in that first half of extra time. I thought the game's gone. And then Talon De Silva knocked on the kickoff for the second half, and I thought the game's gone again. And the side just kept resurrecting that game. So I was really impressed with that. The defib was used on the team about 15 times during that game. And my last use of the word defib is they've resurrected the season after Eddie Otto declared it dead last week. So Eddie Otto gets the defib as well, because that was a season saving and probably a season defining result today. So really pleasing result, and Eddie was trying to kill the season off.
I'm glad he didn't drop with a heart attack, Gary, because there's no way I was doing mouth to mouth on you, mate.
Mate, I don't think you'd get past the beard anyway.
Oh, that's an awful thought. Anyway, Skipper13 said humble pie. And that is because Skipper13 has had to eat some humble pie, saying that the players that he's bagged previously played really, really well. Guys like Dewey.
He's not the only one either.
100%. Mike's word was bunker, way too much influence. Again.
Yeah.
Snake's word was improved. Lorenzo said grit, we just never gave up. Tiger Town SFS's word was pressure, we didn't wilt under pressure. Wagga Tiger, their word was proud. Rach09, emotional, it was a wild ride. Pat Walker's word was testicular fortitude. Canberra Tiger said heart, and NatMax78 homework. We had to work hard for it. I'm sure there'll be more one-word submissions on the West Tigers podcast forum over the next 24 hours. It seems to me, Gary, that a lot of people are out and about, I think, really celebrating the win. It's almost like a grand final win. That is what it felt like watching it on TV. What was it like at the ground?
Yeah, I had it said to me, Rach said to me today before the game that she thinks I'm the most emotionless person to sit and watch a game. I was feeling it today. At times I thought that was a game, as I said, that was going to slip away from us. And it would have been a really hard loss, a loss that would have hurt a lot. But yeah, that game was very emotional, an emotional win for me, because it was just such a strong way to win the game. And I think that will build a lot of confidence in the players. Like, Cronulla weren't horrible today. Cronulla played pretty good football, and I think we were the better team and came over the top of them in that extra time to get the win. So I thought the crowd, 14,000 out there today, it looked like a lot more.
Yeah.
It looked packed out there today, but it was a good crowd. We still do have moments when things don't go our way, where the crowd does go deathly silent really quick.
I can imagine that try just before half-time was one of those situations.
Yeah, and I think it's just that scar tissue from the last, nearly 15 years now, where we've just been a side that things just don't go our way. So the crowd turns really quickly, but it was very vocal at times during that game. It was a great afternoon out there. So glad that I risked the rain that didn't end up showing up at all to get out there and watch that game.
Gary, what about when Nico Hines took the field goal attempt from about 45 metres out? That ball seemed to be in the air forever, and the crowd, you could almost hear everyone hold their breath at the same time. It went so quiet. I couldn't tell if that was going... From the angle we were on, I couldn't tell if it was going through or off to the side, but it was so quiet.
They just about needed 14,000 defib units because I think everyone had their heart in their mouth during that moment. And for it to hit the upright... Like, we don't get that luck. We don't get a guy hitting a kick really well from 45 metres out and having it hit the upright and bounce back in the field of play. And when it bounced back in the field of play, I was sure they were going to score. It was a great effort by Jahream to kind of recover and get into a position where he could at least put pressure on. I can't remember who charged through after it, but put the pressure on, and a great challenge to actually win because the knock-on was called against Buller, and that probably ends the game there. So it was a really good challenge to win. Really, yeah. Just so many little moments in that game where could have went either way, but the bounce kind of went our way for once, which is really pleasing.
Which is why I've got as one of my words, although it's 2 words, is our day. It just felt like it was going to be our day, and if we compare,
many times it didn't, Joel. Many times it didn't feel like it was going to be, but
at least my experience was I was relatively calm. I felt like things were falling our way a little bit more, whereas if you look at last week against Parramatta, it felt like it was going to be their day. It's just the feeling you get in some games where, not to say that I wasn't thinking it's only a matter of time before Cronulla beats us. I was waiting for the freaky play or the field goal or something like that, but a lot of things kept sort of going our way, and it's kind of felt like I kind of felt more confident in a way as the game went on. I just felt like it was going to be our day. My other words, physicality, of course, but I thought we really muscled up. I thought we really matched them in physicality. I guess if you were going to put a little bit of a kibosh on our performance in terms of what looked to be there's 2 vulnerabilities. One we'll talk about in a moment, but the other one was those times where the Sharks were able to spread the ball or kept the ball alive, and we were just standing still, and they managed to find that space and find those few freaky tries. It wasn't from good set play. It was just from their broken field play that we looked a little bit vulnerable at times. I've also got determined. I also went with influence. The refs and the high tackle penalties and sin bins just has way too much influence on the outcome of the game or the outcome of that period of that game.
Especially for... Like, that Pole one was ridiculous, mate. That was... There was nothing in that, and to lose a guy for 10 minutes over that, they've got to get those right. I understand the ones where someone gets someone flush on the chin with that inside of that forearm when the arm's coming around. I get that. But things like that one for Pole today was just ridiculous, and we were very lucky that didn't cost us the game today.
100%, yeah.
I as soon as that happened, I thought Cronulla will get 2-3 tries during this 10-minute period and blow the game away. But the guys fought so well today to overcome that adversity. The NRL has to get that right, though, because it's going to cost teams games, and it's going to cost teams their season at some point this year if they don't get it right. Sorry, Joel.
No, you're right. And in the Channel 9 commentary, Paul Gallen was sitting there dribbling and bubbling over the Sharks the whole game, which was driving me crazy and making me thinking, why have you got someone that's this biased on the commentary? If I want a biased call, we should be able to have that option. But he did, to his credit, say that he thought that was ridiculous, that Pole sin binning. Yeah,
he was actually seated not far away from where Nick and I were. And he was up cheering all of Cronulla's good plays, and I was listening to the commentary at the ground as well, and you're 100% right. He was so pro Cronulla during that commentary. Apart from that one occasion when I do have to give him credit for that. But the rest of the game, I thought it was a really poor reflection of the coverage to have him involved in that game because he's just so biased towards Cronulla.
And the last one that I've got, I know I'm being a little bit self-indulgent and certainly breaking the one-word rules, is I've got semi-final, Nick. To me, that game felt like a semi-final where it doesn't really matter how slick you are or like you're not trying to make a statement. You're just trying to stay alive. You're just trying to desperately get that win. And to me, that felt like a semi-final type game. And that's something that we as Tigers fans haven't really experienced. Like, you know that we often talk about we need a team to not turn up for us to have a good win. But that was actually a performance where we had two really well-matched teams on the day. The Sharks maybe a little bit more speed, a little bit more flair in a couple of ways, a little bit more muscle in some ways. But we just stuck with them and got the result. It was like a semi-final.
And we're going to have to do that all year. I almost feel like every second week's going to be a semi-final for us, because I'm hoping that we're going to be around that 50% win-loss rate, which will get us very, very close to the bottom of the 8 come the end of the season. But, like Benji said, I watched his presser just before we jumped onto the pod. It was huge. And in terms of our season, he said this is our launching pad. Like, that's how big a win today was, because I think going into Magic Round next week, if we had lost, it puts a hell of a lot of pressure on the team. And you look, we've got the Dragons next week, which will be a tough game. Dragons aren't playing too bad either. But
pretty poor this weekend, though.
They were, but I think they'll probably be a team that's going to be around that sort of bottom part of the 8 if things go well for them too. After that, we've got Melbourne. So today was massive. Hopefully we can put a good performance in next week and beat the Dragons.
Well, if you extend that out, we're basically just not perfectly scientifically doing the calculations. But if we stay at 50%, then we end up on, I think it's 24 points. Plus a couple of buys, you end up 28 points, and that should be, more than enough to be in that, at least that bottom half of the top 8. So staying at 50% is really important. I mean, that's all you have to do. Yep. Gary, we need to make sure, though, that we don't drop any other games or we don't drop too many games of the teams that are around us on that table. Like, it's really, really important to beat the Dragons without getting ahead of ourselves. We've got one back today. Like, we beat a more fancied opponent. It's important to just keep that rhythm of at least 50% through the season.
Yeah, those games that we should win between now and the end of the season are really crucial, because I think we've already lost a couple of games that are against sides that are at least around the same level as us or below us. We lost once to the Knights. That Warriors games, even though I think the Warriors are actually sitting in the top 4 at the moment, but I see them as a team who are around that bottom half of the 8 as well, and we lost to Parramatta. They're games that at some point we may look back on later in the season and think, well, if we had won those games, or if we had won 2 out of those games, we might have make the 8. So against St. George next week, we've got to go out there, we've got to play like we did today. We've got to show up, and those games are really important. But I don't want to talk too much about those games, because I really want to celebrate what happened out there today, because for me, as an all-round performance, and I'm not going to call it a flashy performance, but as a committed team-first performance, I think that's our best win in a long time. Really happy to see the side play like that. And launching pad, season-defining sort of game, I think that sets us up for a really good chance of making something of this season now.
Nick, often we do say on the pod, the teams of the past, the Tigers teams of the past would have lost that game. I have no doubt that we would have put in that first half performance. We would have conceded that try. We had the wind behind us. Come out in the second half, the Sharks would have scored a couple of tries. It would have been game over. It would have ended up being 32-10 or something like that. Like, where do you think the team is at? I mean, I want to talk about our attack a little bit in a moment, but 4 from 8. We only won 6 games all year last year. Like, how far have we improved? But how much improvement do you think we've still got potentially in us? Because I still see the ability to be a better team.
I think we've got plenty of improvement left in us. Plenty. I think the improvement will hopefully come with the attack. I don't think we've got too much to worry about in terms of defence, and it's more, like I said, with my one word, the resilience that we're showing. The effort areas are massive. It's hard to sustain that for a whole season, but I do think that the mentality is right. I think Benji's driving standards this season, but he's got players recruited to the club this season that are bringing those standards with them and raising the rest of the bar with them, in terms of the rest of the team. So I said it a few weeks ago too. I think that the players we've brought in are raising the bar, and it's bringing the effort areas of those players that we had in the squad last year up with them. So I think players like Jerome, I still don't think, Romy is hitting his straps. I'm not sure that he's standing out to me as a halfback that's really dictating play. I know that we had sort of discussions, Gary, around that field goal where it went to Romy and then he threw it out to AD, which it turns out it was actually a set play. When I heard back, Joel, you watched the Channel 9 coverage, but I watched a snippet from AD's interview where he did actually say that he discussed it with Romy to set before that they were going to set up for that field goal. But I think that there's a lot of effort to improve. I still think we look a little bit clunky at times in attack. I was really happy to see Lockie out there today smiling, and it didn't seem to be too much of an issue amongst him and the boys today. I thought everything looked fairly good. When he ran out in the field, I don't think he got any huge boos. I think the first time he touched the ball, it might have been the first kick that he put in. He did get some boos from the hill, but apart from that, I thought Lockie had a great game. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement in our attack, Joel. I think we've got more points and probably a bit more improvement on our cohesion coming up as into the back half of the season.
The question is, Gary, isn't it? How long can you play that? At times we still look really disorganised. I know I'm being a little bit negative. It was a fantastic performance, but I want us to keep the season alive. And I wonder, we seem to be a reflection of who Benji was as a player. It is a little bit off the cuff and a little bit unstructured and disorganised. But we still have the strike there to score points. The individual brilliance is there amongst a number of players to provide different attacking threats. But if I was to take my West Tigers hat off and say that if there's one area where the team could really improve, it is to have a halfback that sort of takes control a little bit more. To me, if I was an unbiased fan watching the Tigers, I'd say plenty of brilliance, plenty of attacking potential, but just missing that guy that sort of takes control and steers the team and is more of your organising halfback. So we probably would have had this exact same conversation in 2005, albeit I suppose you'd say we had Scott Prince, who 50% filled that role. He wasn't the most structured sort of halfback in the world, and he certainly gelled in well with our team. But do you see that as something that may be a limitation on us this year, is that we just don't seem to have that guy that steers the team?
I thought today was Jerome Luai's best game for the West Tigers. I think that's the best game he's played since he got here. I thought he engaged the line a lot better than he has in the past. The first try, I think it was, or it might have been one of the repeat sets when Galvin put a kick through. He engaged the line really well and created the space for Galvin. He went a lot deeper into the line than he has been. He does get criticised a fair bit for his organisational, but he's actually doing a fair bit of that off the ball. He's directing players around quite a bit. If you sit at the game and watch him, he's telling players where to be constantly. So I think, for me, a little bit of that opinion on him is a little bit too harsh at the moment. I think he's still developing that side of the game, but I think it's improving. I think it's been getting better every week since he's been at the club. I thought today there was a lot less, especially from him, a lot less kind of getting to a position and then not knowing what to do because you turn out and the player's not there. I thought he dealt with that. It still happened, but I thought he dealt with that a lot better today. And the disorganisation of it today really came from when we were offloading. And we were offloading 3-4 times in a play at times. And it actually created a lot of chances, and it put Cronulla under a lot of pressure today. I think the offloading was probably what kept us in the game attacking-wise and won the game. But the thing is, our attack still looks clunky, especially in the red zone. That's where I have the biggest trouble with it. We're unable to strip numbers once we get down into the 20. And I'm still going to stick with what I said about that last week. And for me, that's a coaching issue. I really do believe that we haven't ran some of those shape plays enough during the preseason. And I don't want to go too hard at Benji because, mate, he's got us to a point where we're 4-4 so far this season. I'm really happy with how we're going, so I'm not going to be too critical around that. I do think the attack's still a work in progress, but for me, what's really impressive, we kept the Cronulla Sharks to 18 points today. They had a lot of opportunities. They had a lot of time in our red zone. They had a 10-minute period where we only had 12 on the field. Keeping them to 18 points, if you keep a side to 18 points, you should win the majority of your games. You should be scoring at least 20 points a game, and for me, if we can defend like we did today and show up time and time again, and the try savers that we had today, then we'll win more games than we lose. So, yes, the attack is still developing. I think we'll get better attacking. I'm not too worried about the organisation around the side, but we do need to improve that red zone attack.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the West Tigers podcast. Don't forget, if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on the West Tigers podcast forum. It's free to join and you can contribute directly to the podcast on the forum. Just head to westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
You mentioned it quickly, or you mentioned it during the game today, Gary, about one time, I think it was in the first half, where we stacked our attack down the left side, but we had Jareem on the right.
And we probably didn't go back to it enough. It happened a couple of weeks ago when Buller put the kick through for himself.
Yep, scored it for cover.
I think it was a little bit of an accident when it happened last time, that Lockie and Jerome were on the left-hand side of the field and Buller was out on the right as the only kind of playmaker out that way. And the defence and the fullback, it was against the Knights, Ponga slid right across, and that's why he wasn't there for that grubber kick. We did it again today, but it looked planned today when we did it. It looked like that the boys went over that side to draw attention away from Buller, and Buller nearly cut through. It was early in that first half. I'd like to see us do that a little bit more. The more space we can create for Buller on that right-hand side, the more dangerous our attack's going to look, because even today, I thought he was fantastic once again today. Fantastic under the high ball, made some try saves, missed a couple as well that he'd probably want to have another shot at, but one-on-one, that's going to happen. He is playing really good football and looks really dangerous. I will say, William Kennedy is a fantastic fullback as well.
Hot form.
He was fantastic today. Very dangerous every time he touched the ball as well. The boys did really well to contain him. I was waiting for him to cut us to pieces a number of times today.
Kennedy did look very dangerous with some of his runs. Yeah, I thought he was going to split us on multiple occasions. But do you think, Gary, that Jareem's going to that next level? I really do think that he's a lot better than he was last year.
Oh, 100%. He won player. You got to remember, he won the West Tigers Player of the Year, the Kelly Barnes medal, in his first season.
Yep.
And I then thought his second season was a bit of a down season. I think he had a little bit of that second year syndrome where teams were working him out a little bit, knew that how he's kind of playing. But he has gone to another level this year. I have him in one of the better fullbacks in the comp, and he's consistently good. He's consistently dangerous. I think he's probably been our most dangerous player this season. He was dangerous again today. He went close to going through a couple of times, but didn't quite get there. They're also looking to hit him on that inside ball now, I noticed. So I think that'll be something to watch over the next couple of weeks, that out-in ball that Melbourne used to run with Slater all the time. Jareem was hitting that line today as well, and I think that will cut some side up very, very soon as well. He is playing fantastic football. Very, very impressed with him. And at the moment, I had a conversation with Eddie yesterday where Eddie was talking up Guffer. I wouldn't be trading Jareem Buller for just about anyone. I wouldn't trade him for Reece Walsh right now. So
welcome to the club, Gary.
Yeah, mate. There's not many fullbacks I'd trade him for in the game. Not many at all.
And if you give him another couple of years to develop, he could be something really special. Well, something I did like, Nick, and he's one of your favourite players, is I really like the growing and building combo between Jerome Luai and Samuela Fainu. I thought that worked better than it has at any point this year. I thought that was very encouraging to get that left edge looking more potent with that combo growing.
Yeah, not just the combo with Jerome, but that first try was Samuela off a Galvin pass too. So, yeah, nice to see Samuela, hitting some holes and running good lines and working well with the playmakers. But
I'm going to interrupt for a second. That's when Jerome really bit into the line really well.
Yeah,
that's when Luai went deep in the line and created that space for Galvin.
Yep,
Sorry, mate.
Yep. No, you're right. Yeah, which is really good to see because I think Samuela was one of those players that sort of dipped a little bit last year as well, form-wise, like Jereme as well.
He won Player of the Year.
He won Player of the Year, but I think a lot of our players kind of flattened out a little bit last season, and that's going to happen when you're playing in a team that's coming last, not looking likely to win games, and didn't really have strong halves last season either. So I think this is all improving with with improved players that we've recruited in the off season. A lot stronger in key positions across the field, and it's starting to show with the improved performance.
He also made 130 odd metres today. I think it might have been 127 metres. So a fantastic performance from him all around. I think it's been quite obvious over the last couple of weeks that they've been trying to get him more involved in the game. That they've been using him a lot on the inside lines where they drop him off. But what was really nice to see today was him starting to hit those crash lines. And starting to build that combination with Luai giving him that ball in that hole, I think that's going to be really... He's going to, very soon, hit one of those lines and really go straight through it. He's playing really good football. I thought he started the season a little bit slow, but I think he's just starting to hit his straps now. I think he's going to have a really strong game very soon, hopefully next week.
Can I also give a rap to Sione Fainu, who contributed well off the bench, but especially in that golden point period, the last couple of plays of the game, he was on fire with Pole, got us right down the end of the field, got the penalty, so well done, Sione.
Yeah, by the looks of it, I only saw it on the big screen at the ground, which at Leichhardt Oval isn't too big. It's kind of like watching the game on your phone.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like too much of a strip. It kind of looked like he might have just let that ball go.
It was our day.
I'll argue against that. I think there was a hand in there because I've watched the highlights. As soon as I got home, I put the highlights on, and I reckon there's a little sneaky Cronulla hand poking that out. So I'll call that a fair penalty.
You know what? I don't care either way right now, Nick, because guess what? We won.
100%. 2 points in the bank. How good.
Exactly. A couple of other guys that I think are worthy of really singling out. Taruva again, his work on Mulatalo, who has a history of scoring 3 or 4 tries against us. Yeah. He was in his face. He was up on him. And 99 times out of 100, he got him, or at least got around his ankles. I thought Taruva again, just very, very impressive. Any thoughts, Scary?
Yeah, he had a really strong game again. Probably a little bit down on his meters today compared to what we've seen. But once again, did really well to finish off that try. Look, I've got to say, and you're probably about to mention him, Stafford Toa, the room he created for that try, his upper body strength seems to have gone to another level this year, and he's able to fend players away regularly. That left-hand palm he put on to draw in the winger and flick out to Taruva was a great play. But yeah, Taruva once again... I thought he let himself down last week with some ill discipline. I thought he led the side really well from out on the wing, as best you can out on the wing today. And he's the best finisher we've had in a long time, and that's on top of how well he gets our set started.
He's classy, isn't he, Taruva?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, that's a real Penrith trait that he's brought across, and I'm so glad that Penrith don't have that anymore.
And you give him just a little bit of space, and I'm confident he's going to score every time, even with the cover defence coming across, because what he's really good at is beating that sliding cover defence coming across.
Not just his ability to finish, and also his cover defence is great, but his efforts under the high ball are incredible. The hit-ups that
for a short guy.
For a short guy under the high ball, but even the hit-ups, like it's almost Brian To'o, like sometimes he jumps in the middle and takes a hit-up, and he'll run a good 10 metres as hard as he can into the defensive line. It's very impressive to watch, and that's what lifts the efforts of the guys around him as well.
Mate, it's been one of the biggest improvements for this team this year. is the improved meterage coming out of our own end. Like, we really missed Jarrell Skelton today, but Naden went out there and ran for 170 metres. Like, that's a really strong effort. Like, he's a bigger guy as well. That's one of the better games I've seen him have on the wing. But Taruva, you'll get to tackle 3 or 4 in a set, and he'll just take it one out from the ruck and go flat out into the defensive line. It's so impressive. That's got to be inspiring for your team. The way he'll do that hard work coming out of our own end. Even when the forwards have got back there, he'll grab the ball and still put his head down and go.
Speaking of Brent Naden, what about that try saver he made, that tackle on the winger out wide where he knocked the guy into touch and the ball went flying? That was an unreal effort.
But poor Joel had this list of players that he wanted to kind of single out. I think we've just stolen them all on him, Nick.
It's all good.
That's all right.
I would make the point about Stafford Toa. I'm really glad to see him stringing some consistent first grade together because he doesn't look out of place there. And I think he's got more improvement still in him.
That's the big thing for me, Joel, is in the past you'd see a flash where he'll have 1, maybe 2 games where you'd really consider him an NRL quality centre. The big difference this year is I don't think he's had a poor game. I think every game this season he has shown that he is an NRL centre, and centre was my biggest worry going into this season, centre and second row, and I think he's really stepped up this year. I've been really impressed with Stafford Toa. The space he's making for Taruva. Quite often when a winger scores a lot of tries, and Taruva, what's he up to now? It must be 7, 8 tries this season.
Yeah.
When a winger's scoring a lot of tries, it's usually because of the work that the centre playing inside him's done. The reason why we had the Tank Taniela score 21 tries in a season, and then we had Takiri come in and score 20-odd tries in a season, was because they were playing outside Chris Lawrence when he was at his prime. The reason Taruva's scoring these tries is the work of Stafford Toa playing inside him. So he deserves a really big rap for his form this season. It's gone to another level.
Benji actually singled out Stafford Toa in an interview, I think it was a week or so ago, I can't remember who interviewed him, but said that he always knew that Stafford had real quality centre or qualities in his game that he knew were there, but his sort of career's been a little bit hampered the last couple of seasons with injury, but he knew that he could be the dangerous player that we're seeing now, and I think we're starting to see that consistency with obviously a healthier body on the field. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying watching Stafford. He's a strong runner of the ball, isn't he? And that silky little flick pass out to Taruva was very good to watch.
It's the fend before that. It's the fend that creates that space to actually gets that winger to come in onto him, and that's what he's shown. He showed it in that game against the Cowboys when he was all over Valentine Holmes, but he's doing it just about week on week now, where he's using that fend to get on the outside of someone and creating that extra space. It's been really good to watch. Very happy to see how he's playing.
Going back to Skipper 13's humble pie, I think I'm glad to say I'll eat some humble pie when it comes to Adam Doueihi. He seems to be, and I was going to make the point about a couple of injuries, like Naden seemed to be limping a bit with that knee. Doueihi was limping a bit. Appy obviously hurt in Golden Point. Looks like maybe a calf injury, which all may factor in the team that we name against the Dragons. But poor game last week in the halves. But centre is his spot, Gary. He just seems so comfortable out there. And not just in attack, but I think his defence has been so much better than what we expected it to be.
Yeah. Like, I've probably, in our entire fan base, been the person who's been the most critical of Adam Doueihi over the years, and always have. And it wasn't that I didn't think there was a good footballer there. That part of the frustration is I think there's a really good footballer there. But I thought we would be playing him out of position in the halves, and I think last week showed that. I've always thought his best position, I think I said on the pod many years ago that he's an out-and-out centre. And the only concerns I had when he moved to the centres wasn't his attacking play. It was his poor reads in defence, and at times, I'm going to say it, at times, the lack of effort in defence. And that is not there this year. His defence has improved a lot. I think a lot of that has to do with playing outside Jerome Luai. Jerome Luai sets a certain standard, especially in defence. And I would say if you're defending outside Jerome Luai and you're not putting the effort in, you're going to know about it pretty soon. But all credit to Adam Doueihi. He's taken his defence to another level. And it's not just his defence. Today he jammed in, I can't remember who it was on or when it was, but he jammed in and made a really nice tackle, really nice read on a play. He did that when he got forced out on the wing a couple of weeks ago as well. His defensive decisions have gone to another level this season. So I've been really, really impressed. I did get a little worried. The only concern I had about him today is we got that penalty right at with about a minute or two to go in the first half of the extra time, and he wanted to go for the penalty goal from like 55 metres out. He wanted to take that kick.
He wanted to be Ross Connellan about 1984.
Yeah, he would have kicked the distance. I got no doubt he would have kicked. It was downwind. He would have got the distance.
I don't think it was a smart play. The better play was to set up for the field goal. Yep. But he really wanted to take that kick. But yeah, I'm at the point now, and this will surprise most people. I'd be offering him a contract for next year. I think he's shown enough in the centres. I don't ever want to see him play in the halves ever again, but he has shown enough in the centres that he can be a centre for us next year. At worst, he's a backup centre. Like if we brought in someone else over the top of him, but I've been very happy with his gameplay, and his goal kicking has been really crucial in some games this year. So, all credit to Adam Doueihi. He's playing really strong football.
My understanding is the club was told by someone quite eminent and respected 3 years ago that we had somewhere in the vicinity of 6 first graders in our squad, and then that number grew to maybe about 10 or 12 last year. And the thing is that what we're talking about with guys like Stafford Toa and Adam Doueihi and Sunya Taruva and Brent Naden is that they're all playing first grade standard football, which is something that we're not quite used to. Like, they're not doing anything ridiculously amazing. They're just going out there and they're being reliable and predictable and mostly getting the job done. And that's just so good to see. It's such a different thing to what we've had the last few years. And if we're aiming for a 50% win ratio and we've got first grade players, the chances are we'll get there so long as injuries and suspensions and things remain kind to us, Gary.
Yeah, we've still got some spots in this squad that I think we do need to, to improve.
We're probably at about 18 now,
Yeah, and some players in our top 17 who I'd be looking to improve. But none of them are really through lack of effort or through lack of commitment. I think everyone knows I'd be looking for a second rower. That hasn't changed. I'd be looking for a lock. But Alex Twell's performance this season, I think, has been really, really strong. I'm not going to sit here and bag out the guy we've got playing lock. I just think we have a different need. We need from our lock than what he can provide. But he is... I thought he was very good again today. He's actually getting impact into his runs, which I didn't think he kind of had. And I've always thought he probably, out of all our forwards, was the one that could read Appy the best, who could run off Appy the best. So he's having a really strong season as well. Been very impressed with Alex Twell's form this year. To the point where I think he's probably, if not our third best prop, he's been our middle forward anyway. Because that's what he's playing. He's playing as a third prop. He's either been our third best prop or our fourth best prop at worst this season. I think he's having a really strong season.
The thing with Twally, he's very solid. When's the last time he had a bad game? Like actually a game that you remember him playing poorly? I don't think he's had a poor game. And I know Richo's come out recently and said that Alex Twell's the type of player you want to have in your 17 because he's always at an 8 out of 10 or playing a B game. He's never an A or an A+, but he's that guy that never lets you down. He's always putting in huge effort areas. His defence is unreal. He's rock solid. He holds the middle on his own. He's just that type of player you can rely on week to week.
It's always been lack of impact. It's never been lack of effort. It's never been lack of of anything other than he would go the line. Just wasn't able to dent the line.
Yep.
Now, he's added a couple of things to his game. I think he's running off Appy really well. I think he's running a little bit harder. But he's also, there's a little bit of footwork in his game now when he gets to the line. And I think that's helped a lot as well. So he's having a really strong season, but I still do think we need that ball playing lock. Alex would still have a spot on my bench, but I think we really do need that ball playing lock in that role. I think that changes our attack massively. And I think a lot of the concerns we have about our attack in the red zone would improve a lot if we could get that ball playing lock.
See, I don't disagree with you, Gary, but I would suggest that if we were to have a more naturally organising halfback, and I'm not saying drop Jerome Luai, I'm talking about 2026, and I'm talking about taking this team from here to here, taking it up another level, it would be to have somebody who is that different halfback, because if you look at a lot of teams that run an Adam Reynolds or a Daly Cherry Evans or whoever has a good halfback, Jerome Hughes, they don't necessarily have Jerome Yeo as a ball-playing lock. So I think we've got to make the decision of what we want from our halves and our lock, because if we want to have what we've currently got, we probably need more ball-playing from our lock. But if we were to have more of a traditional halfback, then I think we could have more. We could have an Alex Twal there in 13.
Yeah, possibly. I still, look, I think the best halfback in the game is Nathan Cleary, and his best football is when he's playing a little bit wider because he's got someone like Yo to get the ball. Even when he had Jerome Luai in his side, I thought his best football, Nathan Cleary's best football over the last 2 weeks, has been when Yo has been into that lock role. It's going to be really interesting to see how Penrith go over the next couple of weeks. Because I think was it a 3-week suspension Yo got? That's got them in a really tough spot.
A world of hurt.
A whole world of hurt for Penrith, which is great to see. But yeah, for me, I would prefer that ball playing lock before we look at halves. But I have a feeling the club is looking for a more organising half. I think that's something that we will probably see happen sometime in the next couple of months.
See, if Declan's sort of the Tony Suka of the podcast, Gary, I think you're the Alex Twal of the podcast. You're safe and reliable, consistent, very rarely score.
I set you guys up all the time. I'm the chief playmaker. Seriously?
Here we go.
I'm the Terrell mate. I get all the meters.
Terrell mate.
Terrell mate. But I'm combined with Lockie Galvin and Buller as well. I create.
Could you pick any better players to compare yourself to? You've just picked the cream of the crop and said, I'm like all these guys. Come on, Gary. Turn up.
Well, when the shoe fits, you put it on, mate.
You're more like Alex Seyfarth. But I do love Big Red, and you are a Big Red on your own accord. But
see, I think you're the Brendan Toomuth of the top 17, Nick.
Brendan Toomuth's family love him very much, and I love Brendan Toomuth too. So
you mentioned Terrell May. What about those stats from his game today? He had me pulling out what little hair I have left when he did throw that ball.
Yeah.
or lost that ball in golden time. But another huge performance.
I have to say, he is the signing of the season, not just for the West Tigers, for any club. He's in the top couple of props in the game. Look, he had about 5 minutes off in, 90 minutes of football. So he must have played about 85 minutes today. 216 metres or something crazy. 41 tackles with no misses. And 8 offloads, I think it was. Just crazy. And I know he went for that offload towards the end. But he had 8 during the game. Like if he's not going for that offload, then he's changing how he's playing in that last couple of minutes. So I don't really want him changing how he's playing. He has been absolutely fantastic for us, and he's played over 80 minutes today would be my guess, and it doesn't even seem like it bothers him. I think he could play again tomorrow. Like it just doesn't seem to faze him. I've had a few people over the last week say that the Tigers are going to burn him out. I really don't think. I think he can handle it. And I watched the press conference from Benji as well, Nick, and his line was that Terrell May yelled at him when he got taken off. What did I do wrong? Why have you taken me off?
Yeah, he's an athlete, isn't he?
Yeah, he wants to be playing that minutes, and I know at times you've got to protect the player who wants to take on too much, but I don't think it's really going to hurt him. I think he's just built to play that way.
He's conditioned himself. I said it during a preseason pods that he was off running, marathon with his mate or his brother or cousin or someone during the off season, and that was just for something to do. He just wanted to challenge himself. When we stopped training over the Christmas break, he just kept going. He didn't want to stop. So this is his mentality. He said during the preseason that he wants to come to West Tigers and be the leader. He wants to be the alpha. And they were words, and I remember Steve saying, this is great, that he's saying this, words are nice, but we need to see it on the field. We're seeing it on the field. And it's not just us. Like, he's been recognised for it, and he's been spoken about as going to play Origin, and it would not surprise me if he gets picked to start. I don't think he'll be a bench player, he'll be starting prop.
He's definitely in consideration for Origin. Now, you never know, maybe Daly goes with the guys who were there last year, maybe not. But if he at some point, I think during this season, will be playing Origin. His start to the season has been that good. He must be averaging over 180 metres a game. I haven't looked at the stats.
Yeah, he would be.
But he must be. And I was really happy when he signed him, because though he didn't always get the minutes at the Roosters, whenever he got big minutes, he made big meters and had really impressive defensive stats. He is by far and away one of our best ever signings, and I think the signing of the NRL this season, I couldn't be happier with his form.
It's something for us all to remember. I wrote on the forum, on the West Tigers podcast forum, there was a discussion about Richo, and I said that we as fans need to learn to trust again, because if you look at the decisions that they've made, they're pretty much getting them right. Nobody gets 100%, but they're pretty much getting them right of who they've let go. The decision to go with Terrell May and Fanua Pole, and more often than not, when we might have questioned it at the time and thought, I can't quite see, the logic behind this, but they're getting it right, and I think they'll continue to get it right. So have a little faith in guys like Richo. They've been there and done that before.
And the key part of that for me, Joel, is we've lost players we're trying to keep. Like, we're trying to keep Stefano. There's no doubt the club wanted to keep him. But any time we've lost a player, or any time we've even missed a player we've tried to sign, who we've actually ended up signing has been an upgrade.
Yeah.
And for me, that's massive. And we're losing Lockie Galvin, but I'm quite confident that we'll go into the market. We've got a heap of money now, and we will make an appropriate choice, and we'll be fine because of what we got in Richo and his ability. The players he's brought to the club so far, every single one of them has been an upgrade on what we had before them.
That's the only reason I take some comfort, Gary, out of the fact that Lockie doesn't want to be at the Tigers beyond the end of his contract, and most likely he probably won't be there next season. But the only thing that gives me comfort is Shane Richardson. And in his interview, or the pod that he did with James Graham, he said, yes, we're disappointed that Lockie wants to go. And he said, personally, I don't think it's the best decision, but it's the decision that he has made for himself. But as a club, we're fine. We've already moved on. Like, we're prepared to move on. Lockie's going. We're looking beyond Lockie Galvin. So all of our faith has to be in Richo. Like you said, Joel, everyone he's brought in, he and Benji sat down, and decided on who they wanted to recruit for this year. It's all worked out. We missed out on a couple of guys, and we're probably lucky to get someone like Terrell May. We could have had, what's his name, Big Red from
Horsburgh.
Yeah, from the Raiders there instead. But the cards fell our way for a change. We ended up with Terrell May by the season. You're not wrong there, Gary. So yeah, what happens post Galvin, we don't know. But yeah, all our faith is with Richo. I'm sure he's going to make the right decisions to take us somewhere stronger again.
And I don't really want to dwell on that negative Galvin talk after the performance today. But what I will say about it is who wouldn't want to be a part of what happened out there
100%.
today?
100%.
Who wouldn't want to be a part of this club after how well they came together as a team yesterday? The crowd support, even though it's only a 14,000 crowd, it was a great atmosphere out there today. The players took forever to come off the field after the game. If you don't want to be a part of this and rebuilding this, then...
Stuff you.
Yep. Too bad, so sad. Off you go. Today's performance, and look, he had a little bit of an up and down game, but I thought his positives far outweighed his negatives today, and if he plays like that for the rest of the season, then I think there's probably a spot for him in the top 17 if he's playing football like he played today. So, yeah, I'm done talking about him for now, but if you don't want to be a part of what we're building, then you don't want to be a part of it. That's all that it is.
I just want to point out too, I'm pretty sure the crowd was 14,800 and something, so I think it was closer to 15.
15.
So, yeah, someone's going to point you out in the forum, Gary. I just thought I'd jump in and...
Yeah, I don't
Tell you
care
wrong.
about people pointing me out, Nick.
Maybe you should. Might be a bit more likeable if you, listen to the people, Gary.
Just two things that come to mind, just in regards to Galvin. Like, if he thinks that any other football team that he plays in doesn't have cliques and groups and personalities and egos, well, he's gonna learn some lessons pretty quickly. And the other thing, and look, with Richo, there's always a degree of hyperbole. There's no doubt about that. But, I loved what he said. He said the day that news came through that we weren't re-signing him, it kept me up all night, thinking about who we could sign.
How am I going to spend that money?
How am I going to spend the money? Like, what opportunities does this open up for us? So have some faith, I think, is the way to do it. Speaking of Richo, the Richo meter, only Mike made a contribution on the forum. He said average. Well, I thought, at least in patches, we were good, Gary. I would say average to good.
Yeah, I thought that was a good performance today. If we're just going on today, I think it was quite a strong performance. I'd say it was even probably better than good. It's one of our better performances. I still think there's lots of things we can improve on. But as I said, I think that's one of our better wins for quite a while. To get into a game that didn't always go our way, that got tough, and to play into that wind in the second half, I'm very happy with that performance today. But if I combine it with last week, which I thought was a very poor performance, then that kind of, I've just got to go back to last week to get it back to averaging out at average. and once again, we're sitting in ninth spot, which you don't get much more average than sitting in ninth spot. But a win this week against St. George, and we're back in that top 8 after 9 rounds of a footy season. It's been a long time since we could even smell the top 8 after 9 rounds.
You'd probably say that to beat the Dragons, we're going to have to be average to good, because you'd imagine they're going to be around that average sort of, that's their level, Nick.
Yeah, it is. They've got a pretty well mixed team, the Dragons. They've got some dangerous guys. They've got obviously Big Moses Sully out wide.
Yeah,
and he's looking extremely fit too at the moment, Sully. So he's dangerous. Jacob Little, another ex-Tiger, I think he's playing some really good footy at the moment. And he's complementing what's his name? Who's the other hooker? Damien Cook's doing too. Cook. So, yeah, I actually thought they recruited further well. And I got knocked by a few people when I said that. I thought the Dragons had done well over the off-season with their signings. But, it's a game that we can win. We've just got to be up again. That's the hard part, getting up every week. But hopefully the attack can start clicking a bit more. I think the resilience in defence has been awesome. If we can keep that level up, then we can compete against most clubs.
We play like we did today. We win that game, and we win it fairly easy. St. George have some good players, but they're really poor in the halves. Any side that has Kyle Flanagan as a half, you're on a hiding to nothing. So this is a very, very winnable game coming up next weekend. My big concern is, now, it would have been much worse if we lost that game under those circumstances, but an extra time game where the emotion is so high, now travelling up to Brisbane for Magic Round, getting up next weekend's going to be what the issue is. It's a 6-day turnaround because I think we play Saturday night. So a lot of work needs to be done on getting the players ready for that next weekend. I think the benefit we do have is the fact that it's Magic Round and it's got that kind of special feel around it. I think that should ensure that the players get up for it again. If we get up for it and we go in with that same intent and that same commitment as tonight, I think it's a game we should win easily.
I've heard you say a game we should win. You said we should have beaten the Eels last week and we didn't, but
we should have beaten the Eels last weekend.
That pass.
I know. And I think that highlights how important next week is, because Dragons in Magic Round, followed by Melbourne in Melbourne. After that, we've got the Rabbitohs at Campbelltown. Surely we're going to start firing up at Campbelltown. And after that, we've got the bye. So it's a pretty big month coming up, but there's a couple of opportunities there. Hopefully we can win next week, and then the Bunnies is very gettable too. Melbourne, I'm not so sure if we can win the Storm game, but
mate, if we get 2 out of 3 going into a bye, that's that launching pad for the season you were talking about. That has us sitting nice and high in that top 8. So the next 3 weeks are 3 really important weeks if we want this to be a semi-final season, a top 8 season.
The Storm,
I think it's doable.
Sometimes had trouble with us too, like our play traditionally, although we're not playing the same. But yeah, they're not quite where they were. But anyway, we're going way down the track, Nick.
We are going way down the track, and if I go a little bit further down the track too, after the bye...
What, you're going to tell us who we play in the grand final?
Not quite, but we've got the matchup I'm sure Eddie can't wait for. We play the Cowboys after the bye. Johnny Bateman, can't wait to see you again, mate. And the week after that, we've got Penrith, followed by another bye. So really big, actually probably 6 weeks coming up.
Who do we play in round 24, Nick? I don't 24. Know. I was joking.
While Nick has a look.
Please don't.
Let me tell you about the 4 rule, right? So this is the reason why we should be confident against the Dragons, because they're breaking the West Tigers, the rule of 4. Okay, so there's teams that have been good teams that have had 1 or 2 or maybe 3 ex-West Tigers players in them. Yeah, guys that we've lost, they've gone off, they've played good football. But once you start getting to 4 or 5, hello Penrith, then you start to struggle. And the Dragons, I think if my math is correct, they're at 4. And so that's why I'm feeling confident. They've got too many ex-West Tigers players, so we should be confident.
The more we infect the team, the worse they are. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You import enough West Tigers players, you become the West Tigers.
Correct, exactly. Yep.
Actually, Penrith's...
leeches into the system.
Penrith's Anzac Day jersey, Joel. Did you see it? It was very black and orange.
Yeah.
The Anzac image was very West Tigerish, but and now they're at the bottom of the ladder.
Dane Laurie, Isaiah Papali. That's just stacked with West Tigers, average West Tigers players, and they're sitting on the bottom of the ladder.
I will say Dane Laurie's hair is looking amazing at the moment. He's got a bit of length, a bit extra curl. Must be using really good conditioner.
Yeah, of course that's where you go, Nick. Thanks for that. Thanks for your contribution.
One last thing, although not official news, Nick actually found it just, I think, by accident. Tim Johansson running around in a Souths jersey. Somebody we spoke a little bit about over the off-season as being a potential contributor to the first grade team. Played 1 game for the club last year, but looks like Tim signed a New South Wales Cup deal with the South.
Which is interesting because I had a look. After I saw that, I saw it on, I think it was Instagram, or it might have been X. I went onto the club website. There's no news. I didn't go onto the South's website. I'd looked on X and I couldn't see anything apart from just that one image. But I think it might have been one of our West Tigers groups might have put up on X. But yeah, very interesting. Player with a little bit of potential there. And he did talk up, wanted to be part of the West Tigers team going forward, but he's gone. So good luck to Tim.
I think Gary, who was on a train and trial deal. I'm not 100% certain on that. Or was it a development contract?
No, I think it was a train and trial deal from memory.
It certainly wasn't top 30.
So. I'm not 100% sure either, Joel. It could have been a development one, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head.
Well, he's gone nevertheless. So the churn and burn continues. Not a lot going out, not a lot coming in, but apparently 2 or 3 signings coming our way, which will be interesting.
That's what Richo mentioned in the pod, that I don't know if he meant to say it, but in that James Graham pod last week, he said that there were, I don't know if he said 2 or 3, or he definitely said 3, but 2 or 3 players that we had signed that would be announced soon, and then he very quickly moved on, and James Graham kind of caught wind of that, but didn't delve any or dig any deeper into it. So, yeah, more to come on that one.
Alrighty. Hopefully there's a midweek edition of the pod this week, because there was supposed to be last week, and I left you guys to it, and I left Eddie to it, and it just never eventuated. So I don't exactly know what happened there.
Eddie just kept on saying, we'll do it tomorrow. Yeah. And then it hit Anzac Day, and I celebrated Anzac Day how a lot of people celebrate Anzac Day. And it was a bit too late to kind of do it then.
I'm sure we've traumatised some people who didn't get their midweek edition of the West Tigers podcast.
Yeah, I think most of them just listened to the first episode twice.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you.
Thanks fellas.